Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're not just looking at wealth. We are really trying to dissect the operational manual for reality itself.
That's a great way to put it.
And we're pulling directly from these revolutionary insights of Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles. We're exploring what happens when you look at prosperity not as this, economic struggle, but as a function of alignment.
The spiritual physics.
Exactly, a spiritual physics. So here's the premise we really have to grapple with. What if lacking money, truly running out of supply, became as impossible, as unnatural as, say, trying to run out of air?
And that analogy, the impossibility of lack, that really defines the journey we're on today. For millennia, humanity has been governed by this central, profound lie.
Which is?
That money is something you have to suffer for. That struggle, exhaustion, intense sacrifice. That these are the required steps for financial gain.
Yeah.
Society tells you, if you're struggling, well, you must be getting close to the reward.
Right, and yet if you just stop and observe the world, that narrative,
Yeah.
it just doesn't hold up, does it?
Not at all.
The people pulling 2 shifts, breaking their backs, the ones putting in the absolute maximum physical effort, they're almost never the people building empires. So that whole suffering narrative, it's really the core falsehood we're here to expose.
It is. And Hill and Wattles, they were radical because they saw this contradiction so clearly. They showed that prosperity operates according to these specific invisible laws.
Yeah.
It looks like luck to someone on the outside.
Sure.
But to the person who's actually using these laws, it's mechanical, it's predictable, it's reliable.
So our mission today is really just pure extraction. We're diving into the mechanics, the spiritual physics behind why some people stay stuck, endlessly pushing against things, while others seem to move calmly, confidently, and supply just flows towards them.
And Wattles gave us the ultimate clue, didn't he?
He did. He said you don't get rich by doing certain things.
Right.
But by doing things in a certain way.
And that certain way is alignment. That's the whole game. It's this invisible spiritual law that responds not to, how much you sweat, but to the quality of your consciousness, the strength of your faith, the consistency of your gratitude.
And I think if you, the listener, have ever forced something, pushed, worried, only to watch everything just seize up.
We've all been there.
Right. Versus those other moments, those effortless moments when things just clicked into place and opportunities appeared, faster than you could even explain. Well, you've already encountered this law.
You've seen both sides of it.
Exactly. So the core question for our deep dive is pretty simple. How do you shift from a life where you work for money to a life where money works through you?
Okay, so to even begin talking about the physics of wealth, we really have to dismantle the biggest cultural roadblock first.
Which is the hard work myth.
The worship of labor, exactly. We're taught from childhood that if we ache, we're virtuous. If we're tired, we're making progress. And this idea, it has these deep historical roots, all tied up in morality and scarcity.
The idea that if you didn't struggle for it, you somehow don't deserve it.
Precisely.
And this lie, it's been the silent governor of most of our economic lives. We internalize that feeling of strain, that friction, as a sign that we're on the right path.
But let's just apply some cold, hard logic here, just like our source material does. If effort was the primary cause of money, then every single person working the maximum hours in the toughest manual labor jobs, they'd all be financially independent.
And the data just completely refutes that. Globally, it's not even close.
So the conclusion is, it's inescapable, really. Hard work is not the source of money. It's a potential channel through which money can flow.
Okay. Channel, not source. That's a key distinction.
It's everything. The engine, the actual power source, is internal. Money, at its core, flows from consciousness and idea, not from just pure physical exertion. You can have the greatest machine in the world, but if you don't have electricity, that machine it's useless.
So hard work is the machine.
And consciousness is the power.
Okay, let's unpack that, because this is where the skeptical listener, the person who is grinding 60 hours a week, they need some practical clarity here. If I'm an assembly line worker, my output is fixed. My boss pays me a fixed $20 an hour. So how does my consciousness, my faith, my alignment, how does that change the fundamental economic reality that my time is valued at $20?
That is the perfect question. It's perfect because it reveals the limitation of what we'll later call the competitive mind.
Okay.
The hard work crowd sees that fixed $20 salary as the absolute boundary of their supply. That's the box. The aligned worker, on the other hand, the one operating in that certain way, understands that consciousness isn't trying to magically change the fixed salary. It's working to create new channels.
Ah, so it's not about arguing for $21 an hour. It's about opening up a whole new reality where the $20 becomes irrelevant.
Precisely. Alignment changes the worker's frequency. Let's take two workers. Worker one, operating from scarcity. He truly believes the job is his only available channel. His anxiety ensures he misses every opportunity for a promotion. He never has an innovative idea. He's blind to other career paths because his entire focus is locked on survival within that $20 frame.
So let's follow that analogy. At worker one, as you said, he genuinely believes life is unfair, supply is scarce, every dollar is a painful battle. He's skilled, he works hard, but all his actions are just flavored with this friction.
Right. His vibration is just whispering lack and doubt and fear all day long.
And the universe, or as Wattles would say, the thinking substance,
Being a faithful echo.
it just mirrors this inner movie back to him. It brings him circumstances that prove him right. Friction with his boss, delays, unexpected car trouble, things that justify his belief. He forces everything, and he ends up just running in place.
Exactly. He's confirming his own negative bias over and over.
Okay, now worker two, doing the exact same task. Maybe he's just as skilled, but his inner world is governed by a totally different law.
Right.
He holds his fundamental certainty in invisible supply. He sees abundance as the natural state of things.
Yes, and his vibration whispers increase. Certainty. Possibility.
And this is where the magic happens, right?
This is where it all happens. Worker two's higher frequency. It sharpens his intuition. He sees the efficiency gap on the assembly line that worker one is too stressed to notice. He speaks to his supervisor with a different kind of confidence, an opportunity, maybe a side project, a chance to invest in something small, a new idea for a process. It appears not because he chased it down.
But because his aligned consciousness became a magnet.
It became magnetic to the required supply.
Yeah.
The universe had to deliver it to him.
So the conclusion is just powerfully clear.
Yeah.
Same physical output, same 60 minutes of labor, but a vastly different frequency leads to vastly different results.
Effort without alignment is just strain. It's pushing a huge rock uphill against gravity. But effort with alignment, that's magnetism. That's the calm application of force. But you're working with the governing laws of supply. You're going with the current.
So that feeling of struggle, that's the vibration of separation. It's the belief that you're cut off from the source.
And that quiet certainty you feel when things just click into place, that's alignment. That's the feeling of knowing you're cooperating with a universal law that makes abundance, well, inevitable.
So the goal isn't to work less hard. It's to stop working in fear.
Yes, and start working in certainty. Wattles frees us from this cultural lie that keeps people exhausted and poor. Wealth isn't chased. It's attracted when your inner state, your consciousness, your emotion, your action are all harmonizing with that infinite source of supply.
Okay, so if consciousness is the source, we have to move beyond just metaphor. We need to understand the foundational concept of what Wattles called the thinking substance. This is the mechanism he introduced that bridges the gap between invisible thought and tangible reality.
Right. And for Wattles, the thinking substance isn't some abstract philosophy. It's the actual spiritual physics of creation. He defined it as a living, intelligent field that permeates every single inch of space.
So it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's a formless, creative ocean of consciousness. It's the raw, pliable material from which all things are made. I mean, think about it. It's the source material that's older than money, older than the market, older than the mountains themselves. All wealth, all form flows from it.
And what's so crucial is how we interact with it, which is through what he called the law of impression.
Yes. Wattles stated it so simply. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought.
That's a huge statement.
It's massive. It means your thoughts are not just, idle internal chatter. They're active energy forms. They are instructions being impressed upon this universal field. Your beliefs, your dominant feelings, they are constantly shaping this universal creative clay.
We really need to just sit with the gravity of that for a second.
We do.
If you're in a room and that room is completely filled with this, let's call it invisible clay,
Okay.
and you hold a fixed, detailed, unwavering mental picture in your mind, the clay immediately starts to mold itself into that form.
Faithfully. Precisely.
And relentlessly obedient.
And this is how it all manifests. The money, the opportunities, the right relationships, the fortunate circumstances, they all flow from this field in direct response to the dominant images you impress upon it.
But here's where humanity, historically went wrong. We became so captivated by the physical result, the money, the gold, the resources, that we completely forgot the invisible cause,
Which is thought.
which is thought.
Yeah.
We started worshiping the shadow instead of the light that was casting it.
So think about a time when you held that clear, fixed inner picture. The vision of that successful career, the paid-off mortgage, that new business idea, and you held it with real certainty.
Yeah. Reality literally began to reorganize itself to match that internal blueprint. Doors opened. The right people just seemed to show up. The financing aligned. That wasn't a fluke. That was the thinking substance responding to the clarity of your instruction.
But the inverse. The inverse is what traps most people, right?
Yeah.
You might intellectually desire wealth, but emotionally, you are terrified of poverty. You worry constantly about the bills, about the debt, about what might go wrong.
And that's the great tragedy of inconsistency.
It is. Doubt is a picture. Fear is a frequency. And a contradiction is still an instruction. If your mind is sending these scattered, inconsistent, or fearful signals, the substance, because it's perfectly obedient, creates that scattering in your life.
It manifests as confusion.
Stuckness.
Yeah.
Contradictions in your outer world. You see progress, then it's followed by a setback. You get a gain, then it's followed by a loss. The substance is just delivering precisely what you were dominantly vibrating.
So let me get this straight. If I am actively working, putting in the hours to pay off my debt, but every single night I go to bed picturing that debt ceiling crushing me, am I actually instructing the thinking substance to sustain the picture of being in debt?
Yes.
Am I sabotaging my own conscious effort?
Yes. That is the mechanics of failure. The field doesn't judge. It doesn't care if the instruction is good or bad. It just obeys the picture that's held with the most consistency and the most emotional force.
So if my dominant image is lack or worry or just fighting to survive,
the substance will deliver circumstances that force you to keep fighting that fight. The struggle isn't caused by the outside world. It's the physical manifestation of an internal, contradictory mental impression.
that brings up a fascinating point about supply then. Because if this thinking substance is infinite, if it fills every void, then there can be no shortage, no competition, no fixed limit on opportunity.
Exactly. The entire concept of scarcity just collapses.
The universe stops being this harsh, finite marketplace.
Where you have to fight everybody for these fixed resources.
Yeah. And it becomes a mind place.
A mind place. I love that. An intelligent field that shapes itself entirely to your dominant thought patterns. You're not here to fight for what exists. You're here to co-create with the field that produces existence itself. And that shifts. I mean, it's monumental. You stop being a beggar, asking the universe for things, and you recognize yourself as a co-creator, an instrument of infinite supply.
Okay, so understanding this thinking substance, it immediately forces us to make a choice about how we're going to interact with the world.
It does.
And this is where Napoleon Hill's teachings on organized thought really come into play, specifically focusing on the destructive nature of struggle. Because struggle isn't just physical labor. Hill defined it fundamentally as resistance and disorganized thought, and it's all fueled by fear.
Resistance is the exact opposite of flow. It's the antithesis. We're taught that struggle is noble, that it builds character. But Hill warned that the person who works with all this tension and worry and doubt just humming in the background, they're contaminating their own effort.
He said, a frantic mind is scattered. It can't focus the creative power.
A man working in panic is functionally drowning. He's not working effectively.
So the message that resistance is broadcasting to the thinking substance is basically, I don't trust that supply will come naturally.
Therefore, I must force it.
I have to manipulate the outcome. And the universe, being obedient, just returns that force as friction, as delay, as scarcity.
The law isn't responding to how much you're suffering. It's responding to the vibration of unbelief that's inherent in the struggle itself.
And this brings us to what you called the most important fork in the road for financial destiny.
Yes, the choice between the competitive mind and the creative mind. This is the difference between working against the universal flow and working with it.
Let's start with the default setting for most of the world, the competitive mind.
Okay.
This is the mind that's fixed on the zero-sum game. It believes the world is inherently limited, resources are finite, and this is the critical part. Someone else's gain must be your loss.
It's a mindset that lives in a constant state of fear, which Hill, he correctly identified as the master thief of all potential.
So when you're operating competitively, you're constantly comparing yourself to others.
Resenting their success, envying what they have, and you shrinking your own mental parameters every time you do it. You literally cannot attract abundance because your
Yes.
internal vibration is broadcasting that abundance is scarce and it has to be hoarded. This mind sees the market as a battleground.
Right, forcing you to fight for the visible scraps.
Now, contrast that with the creative mind. It originates. It doesn't fight, it builds. The industrial leaders that Hill studied, people like Carnegie and Ford, they weren't competing for existing slices of the pie. They were inventing entirely new methods, new industries,
Yeah.
new pies altogether.
And crucially, the creative mind celebrates others' prosperity.
Yes, it sees success somewhere else not as a threat, but as validation, as evidence of the infinite nature of supply that's available to everyone. It knows its only task is to create the right internal conditions for flow, not to compete for what already exists out there.
This requires some pretty powerful self-inquiry for anyone listening. When a friend succeeds, when a competitor launches a huge project, what is your immediate gut reaction?
Yeah, be honest with yourself.
Do you feel that tiny sting of envy, that little voice saying, "Why not me?" Because if you do, you are still hypnotized by scarcity. You're operating in that competitive zero-sum field.
And that sting of envy, it's not just a moral issue, it's a physical repellent. Hill warned you cannot hold jealousy and abundance in your mind at the same time.
So can't coexist.
They can't. Envy is a confession of inferiority. It's broadcasting to the thinking substance, I believe my supply is limited by their actions. The very moment you can genuinely praise another's success, you immediately shift your own vibration into the creative field. You affirm infinite supply, and the universe has to respond in kind.
That's spiritual discipline in its purest form.
It is.
Hill observed that the greatest leaders had the discipline to think in terms of riches and possibility, even when they were surrounded by the visible evidence of poverty and failure. They were masters of circumstance because they refused to let appearances dictate their inner state.
The competitive mind will always be a prisoner of appearances. It's obsessed with what is. The creative mind is the master. It's obsessed with what can be. You have to make a choice to stop competing for what already belongs to you by the law of consciousness and instead start cooperating with the same source that is capable of prospering everyone all at once.
Okay, so the creative mind is powerful, but it still needs direction, right? It's not enough to just generally hope for the best. You need a precise command structure.
Exactly.
And this leads us directly to the concepts of definite vision and definite purpose. Hill taught that this clarity, it's the starting point of all achievement. It's not a casual wish. It's a clear, deliberate, unwavering intention.
It's the blueprint. It's the architectural drawing you're submitting to the creative substance.
Without definiteness, that infinite creative substance, it can't build.
It has nothing to work with. The universe does not respond to vague, lukewarm confusion. It only responds to crystalline clarity. When you say, I just want more money, what are you actually commanding?
Nothing specific.
It's meaningless. But when you define the specific value you intend to deliver, the structure of the exchange, the exact purpose of the revenue, that is a spiritual decree. That's an order.
And the tragedy for most people is this lack of mental precision, the drifter that Hill warned about.
Yes, the drifter.
Their desires change daily. They want wealth today, but tomorrow they're terrified of the risk or the responsibility that comes with it. They imagine success for a moment, then immediately revert to these old mental images of limitation.
And the universe, which is perfectly obedient, just mirrors back all that chaotic inconsistency.
A mind divided against itself has no creative force left.
None. You have to create what you can clearly see, and you have to see it with such fixed detail that it becomes more real to you than your current circumstances are. That definite vision is the command set that bypasses all the contradiction.
Hill also emphasized that the true achiever lives mentally in their results. They act from the place they intend to reach, not toward it.
That's a huge distinction.
It is, because if you're continually thinking toward your desire, you're just reinforcing the distance between you and the goal. But if you think and act from the accomplishment, you spiritually collapse that distance into the present moment.
Okay, so to build this command structure, Hill gave us 6 essential principles. These are the practical steps to impress the thinking substance effectively. And the first one is so often overlooked. Enter the silence.
And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go sit on a mountaintop for hours.
Right. No, not at all, though it helps. It just means withdrawing from the noise and the visible appearances. Creation begins where distraction ends. You have to shut out the external noise, the news, the fears of your family, the number on your current bank statement. long enough to hear your own creative instruction clearly.
Then the second principle, which is critical, form one clear, persistent picture.
This is where specificity is everything. Write it down. Describe it in detail. Use all your senses in your imagination. You have to make that internal image so vivid and consistent that it becomes undeniably real to your subconscious mind.
Third, and this is the voltage, as you said earlier, add motion. A cold analytical desire has no magnetic pull, right?
None. Emotion is the charging force. The thinking substance responds to felt reality, not just mental logic. If the picture of your definite purpose doesn't excite you or even terrify you a little bit or fill you with profound gratitude, it lacks the force it needs to manifest.
Fourth, you have to hold that vision with faith. Faith being certainty without evidence. The willingness to be certain despite all the contradictory evidence in the physical world.
It's the only vibration strong enough to override the gravitational pull of your old patterns and all those appearances.
Okay, fifth, and this really gets to the heart of the skepticism about doubt, is to refuse contradictory thoughts.
You must. Doubt and fear have to be dismissed with immediate kingly authority. You acknowledge the thought, but you refuse it entry into your mental blueprint. A divided mind cannot create, so you have to fiercely protect the integrity of your definite purpose.
And finally, number six is to act in harmony with the picture.
Yes. Every step, every decision, every conversation has to affirm the reality you've already chosen internally. The slightest deviation, a moment of complaining or acting poor, that's a cancellation signal you're sending to the substance.
So when this blueprint is fixed, the universe begins its silent, tireless work of alignment.
It starts leveraging every opportunity to bring that form into your reality.
But as you mentioned, a blueprint alone is just a piece of paper. You need the building material. And this brings us to the absolutely indispensable role of faith.
Hill called faith the eternal elixir that gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. It's the spiritual environment that's necessary for germination.
So let's define faith versus hope. I think that's important.
It is. Hope waits. Hope looks forward, just praying that things will change. Faith acts. Faith commands results and looks inward because it knows that change has already occurred on the internal plane.
So in the science of wealth, faith is the actual substance.
It's the spiritual cement holding the vision together, yes.
If the definite vision is the tiny seed that contains the blueprint for the giant oak tree, then faith is the water, the rich soil, and the atmosphere. Without those conditions, the seed just stays dormant, no matter how beautiful the blueprint is inside it.
And Hill's deep dive into the human mind showed that the subconscious, which is the mechanism that interfaces with the thinking substance, it only transforms a thought into reality when that thought is saturated with belief.
Saturated. I like that word.
Belief is the life force that charges the thought. A weak thought produces a weak, fleeting result. A confident, saturated thought produces an inevitable one.
And this mechanism explains why people get those divided results we talked about.
Yes.
They might work hard, that's the channel. They might wish for success, that's a vague picture. But they are vibrating in doubt. They imagine this big future, but then they spend 90% of their emotional energy quietly preparing for failure.
And the universe can't obey doubt and faith at the same time, so it delivers inconsistency. It delivers progress, followed by collapse. Opportunity, followed by a sudden setback. Faith eliminates this conflict entirely.
So faith isn't just some naive spiritual concept here. It's a deliberate, powerful discipline.
A tool. And Hill gave us 3 actionable methods to build this unshakable faith, to transform it from a wish into a reliable tool.
The first is autosuggestion.
Right. We have to consciously speak our definite desire into our mind through repetitive emotionally charged commands until the subconscious just accepts it as an undeniable fact. The subconscious mind doesn't argue. It just accepts what it's consistently fed. And this constant repetition, seeing it, feeling it, speaking it, it bypasses the skeptical conscious mind.
The second is emotionalization. The voltage, the heat.
Yes. You have to attach potent feeling to the vision, a merely logical desire, one that just satisfies the accounting department in your brain, it's going to fail. A desire that burns, that compels you, that feels essential to your very being, that is the force that compels reality to match it.
And the third method is the practice of certainty.
Act as the person who already possesses what they seek.
Identity precedes reality.
Always. When you walk like this successful entrepreneur, when you think like the solvent, capable investor, the universe responds by treating you as that identity. Your internal state becomes your external compass, and it magnetically pulls the necessary circumstances into your experience. Faith, in this context, is just the disciplined refusal to allow temporary appearances to contradict your eternal inner knowing.
Okay, so once the definite vision is set and it's charged with faith, the system needs a stabilizer.
Yes, it does.
And this is where gratitude, as defined by Wattles, becomes absolutely indispensable. He called gratitude the great harmonizer. It locks your vibration into abundance. It acts like a spiritual ballast that prevents the old patterns of fear and lack from pulling your mind backward.
And most people misunderstand gratitude completely. They see it as this sentimental reaction, something you feel after good things happen.
Right. I'll be grateful when I have the money.
Exactly. But Wattles taught the metaphysical truth. Gratitude is a cause, not a reaction. You don't attract abundance because you feel grateful, and therefore abundance appears.
So when you express gratitude, even for things that are still invisible,
You send a precise signal to that infinite intelligence. I recognize the supply that surrounds me, I affirm the flow, and I am prepared to receive more. It's like striking a tuning fork that's tuned to the frequency of abundance. The universe, by the law of harmonious vibration, must vibrate back with an equivalent physical form.
and the profound power of gratitude is its ability to just instantly reverse the condition of lack. The average mind is focused overwhelmingly on what's missing.
All day long, the bill, the lack of opportunity, the setback.
Gratitude forces the mind to focus on what is working, what is possible, what's already present in your life. And in a mind that's dwelling on gratitude, fear just can't gain any traction.
Think about those moments when you felt light, confident, and things were just flowing. You were probably unconsciously operating in a high state of gratitude. That feeling sharpens your intuition, it improves your decision-making, and it accelerates the whole alignment process. Gratitude is the practical recognition that the universe is fundamentally benevolent, and that you are partnered with that benevolence.
So to practice gratitude creatively, not just sentimentally, it requires some specific discipline.
It does.
First, you start the day with a declaration of partnership, not desperation. You have to state, I am grateful for the infinite supply that surrounds me. It flows to me and through me for the upliftment of all.
Second, you practice gratitude before receipt. This is the highest demonstration of faith that the thinking substance requires. You thank the universe for the definite vision you've claimed, even while it's still invisible. This act literally accelerates its appearance into physical form.
Third, replace complaint with creation. Every complaint about the traffic, the government, the slow progress, it lowers your vibration. It acts as a contradiction signal.
And Hill said that only a grateful mind can see the seed of opportunity hidden inside adversity. The fearful mind just sees the adversity itself.
Fourth, express increase everywhere you go. What does that mean exactly?
It means more than just being polite. Hill advised that truly great leaders are those who make other people feel richer and more capable just by being in their presence. Increase is the signature of alignment and gratitude. You should aim to leave every single interaction better than you found it.
And fifth, you have to internalize the feeling. The universe responds to the voltage, not just the vocabulary.
Gratitude dissolves mental tension. And we've already established that a tense, contracted mind cannot receive that effortless supply. It transforms your consciousness into a magnet.
Okay, so once the inner state is stabilized by gratitude and faith, it has to find a physical expression.
It must.
This brings us to action in the certain way. Hill taught that action is the physical translation of belief. A desire just remains suspended in the unseen until you act with the full confidence of someone who expects success.
And we have to strongly contrast frantic action with certain action. Most people act from a place of fear. They hurry, they panic, they try to force timelines, and this frantic action is just wasted motion because it's loudly broadcasting unbelief to the subconscious.
So the universe interprets that hurry as a fear of loss.
Yes, and results in delay and obstruction. The aligned mover, the one acting in a certain way, operates differently. He moves with a calm, deliberate precision. He doesn't hurry because hurry is a symptom of doubt. He doesn't postpone because that's a confession of weakness. He acts as though an invisible hand is already clearing the path ahead of him, making his steps precise and necessary.
So to adopt these principles of certain action, you have to start right now.
Immediately. Act right where you are. Hill warned that the person who waits for perfect conditions will be waiting forever. The infinite always begins with what's right at hand. Do the next right thing today in alignment with your fixed vision.
And next, act with full presence. A divided mind creates divided results.
Your commitment has to be total. The law responds to certainty, not to some half-hearted or distracted effort.
Furthermore, Act without emotional interference.
Yes. Do your work, execute your plan, and then release the outcome. Worry is interference.
Yeah.
Faith is cooperation. You can't dig up the seed every day to check if it's growing.
And finally, every action must be in harmony with your vision. If your definite vision is abundance, but your actions and your words are reinforcing poverty, you're just sending conflicting instructions that cancel your progress.
And when all those things merge, accurate thought, definite purpose, faith, gratitude, and certain action, they create this unstoppable momentum. They create wealth in motion.
So we've reached the culmination of this process, the turning point where the struggle ceases. Not because the outside world changed, but because you have finally started working with the law instead of against it.
This is the effortless stream of supply.
This is the state of living in the certain way, where supply flows automatically toward your consciousness. Money stops being something you have to hunt down, and it starts moving toward you with such a natural rhythm that the outside world genuinely mistakes it for dumb luck or, an inheritance.
We can go back to that shadow analogy. Most people spend their entire lives straining, clinging, trying to grasp money. They're chasing their own financial shadow.
And the shadow follows automatically without any effort once you stand in the light of alignment. You don't chase money, you become the source that money is irresistibly drawn to.
The critical barrier that prevents people from reaching this stream is financial tension. Hill identified the fear of poverty as the most destructive of all fears because it instantly disconnects you from infinite intelligence. The flow cannot enter a mind that is contracted and closed by fear and doubt. The effortless stream only opens when the mind opens.
So you have to think of yourself less as a fighter and more like a farmer of consciousness.
I love that.
A farmer doesn't yell at the soil. He aligns with the laws of growth. He sows the seed, that's the thought. He adds water, that's faith. He provides sunlight, that's gratitude. And he cultivates, that's certain action. The actual manifestation, the harvest, belongs entirely to the law. And the law of growth never fails.
So, to live in this sustained flow, there are 3 essential laws that must be adhered to daily. First, you have to release all financial fear. You cannot hold the picture of supply while you're vibrating the emotion of lack. You have to remove that psychological dam that's blocking the flow.
Second, you have to circulate money with consciousness.
Yes, money must move. When you hoard money out of fear, you constrict the channel. When you give and spend and invest with faith, recognizing the infinite source, you expand the channel. Circulation is spiritual breathing. Inhalation or receiving is impossible without a conscious exhalation or giving.
And third, stand in the vibration of increase.
Everything you interact with, your words, your thoughts, your projects, must uplift, grow, and expand. Increase is the signature of alignment. And when you live this way, you stop trying to micromanage how the supply will arrive because you trust that the how belongs to the unfailing universal law.
This brings us to the final and I think most profound synthesis offered by Hill and Wattles, which is that money is not the real wealth.
No.
Money is merely the temporary shadow that wealth casts. The true enduring currency is consciousness itself.
Hill's comprehensive research, it showed that giants like Carnegie and Edison were driven not by the pursuit of dollars, but by the relentless pursuit of purpose and the expansion of value. And Wattles affirmed this. He said, you're not here merely to earn a living. You're here to give life, to expand the thinking substance through your unique expression.
So you stop chasing the symbol.
And you embody the source.
Which flips the entire relationship. The ordinary person labors for money, hoping that the money will grant them confidence, security, and freedom.
But the truth is the complete reverse. Confidence, security, and freedom create the money. Those who operate from an internal state of abundance see abundance appear externally because they move like the source, and the world has no choice but to treat them accordingly.
Hill called this mastermind state the internal awareness of a union with infinite intelligence. It's a clarity so complete that the individual feels they have access to all the knowledge and all the power necessary for their definite purpose.
And money is simply the quantifiable echo of that internal organized power. When you operate from the identity of the Creator, you activate the highest law of wealth. Increase flows toward the one who increases life.
So to embody this true currency, we have to finalize 4 identity transformations. First, stop fearing loss. It's functionally impossible when you know your source is infinite and responsive. Refuse to shrink. You must expand.
Second, stop chasing money. Focus your energy entirely on pursuing purpose, service, and mastering your chosen field. Money then just becomes a natural, inevitable byproduct of your contribution.
Third, stop identifying with temporary visible lack. You have to consciously think from the state of already established abundance rather than hopelessly thinking toward it.
And finally, fourth, stop working for mere survival. Work as an expression of the highest within you, your unique value and purpose. When you reach this stage, the question stops being, how do I get more? And it becomes, how do I become more? Because the person who becomes more can never have less.
Hill stated it so clearly. There are no limitations to the mind except those we acknowledge and accept. And Wattles taught that when you successfully raise your own life to its highest potential, you raise the entire world. When you operate from this identity, the consciousness that commands supply wealth becomes inevitable and effortless.
You've discovered the law. Wealth is summoned by consciousness and alignment, not earned by mere physical suffering. Money is a faithful mirror, and abundance responds directly to your internal state of mind, not to the quantity of your sweat.
You're no longer required to be the one chasing opportunity. You have become the person opportunity is inherently drawn to. You're no longer begging for a chance. You are recognized as the reliable channel the universe selects for increase.
So if your thoughts are literally molding the invisible substance of reality with precision, what is the single, persistent, dominant negative image? The image of doubt or scarcity or limitation that you must finally refuse to entertain. That immediate and authoritative refusal of contradictory thought is the final act of spiritual discipline required to step into your effortless stream. Now claim it.